One of the things that I was really lucky and privileged and able to do for the last 10 years was help students all over the country with the college process. And I think while that was really rewarding, living in Maine, I just increasingly wanted to help students right here in my own backyard and all over the state. And I love Maine. It has been my home for the last 5 years, and I know I want to raise my son here and stay here for as long as I live. And I think that has been a really exciting prospect for me to have that local impact. And I think the other piece is just the mission of Mitchell really, really resonates to me. I have yet to experience a place where we're really pairing this monetary support with this holistic, we're in this together. You know, these big and small gestures of we're gonna support you financially, but also we have your back because nobody goes through college alone and nobody should. And so being able to see that you have a team here to support you, both of your peers, of the staff, of the alumni, it's pretty incredible how much this place recognizes you have to do things together. And I love being able to contribute to that. This might sound trite or just obvious, but the thing that really helped me in college was remembering or seeing that it may not go exactly as you expected, but it'll all be okay. And I think for me, the biggest moment of that was that, a big part of why I ended up transferring college was that my dad was sick throughout college. And so I transferred to be closer to home. And he ended up passing away in my senior year. And so I would go home a lot before that, and it was really important to me to have that proximity to my mom. I'm an only child. We were kind of all in it together. And that meant that, I didn't study abroad. I didn't end up going to a lot of weekend events because I was often home. And while I loved my college experience, I had this whole vision of studying abroad and doing all these, fun social activities and a lot of the things that I had done in high school. On the flip side, I met these wonderful mentors. I met my best friend for life at college. I was able to graduate early and participate in an internship and then a fellowship that was really exciting to me. My dad was a history teacher, and it was really important for him that I be able to continue on what I thought would be a nerdy American history path. And that took a turn as well. I decided graduate school wasn't for me and decided to stick with higher education on the admission side. But I think in every step, it wasn't necessarily what I envisioned for what college would be, but it was exactly what I needed. I became interested in the path to college and the path through college, honestly, through my own experience, which I think informs a lot of people who end up in higher education. I was a transfer student. While I liked my first college, I didn't love it, and I didn't feel like I had found my people. And when I transferred, you're a little bit of an outsider. I had to do orientation again and all these things where I felt a little bit on the outside. And I found a good group of peers, but not quite the strong cohort I had hoped to find. But I ended up befriending two staff members. One, the admissions director, because I was a tour guide. I wanted to preach how much I loved my new college to everybody. And the second was a professor who was actually in a required course. So I was just slotted into her class by luck. And they both took me under their wing, and they really mentored me. And it was my first experiencing understanding the impact of a mentor in college, somebody who's looking out for you, somebody who's in your corner. And actually, the admission director is responsible for both of my first jobs out of college, which were unsurprisingly in higher education. She was my mentor, my reference, my cheerleader, a big sister to me, and I really thank her for a huge part of my path. So I think one of the biggest pieces was, in my experience, both as an admission counselor and as a college counselor, I saw so many students and parents and families coming to the college process with so much fear and worry and a lot of myths with them, a lot of things that we hear of I heard this, and typically things that come after I heard are things that scare you, things that make you more stressed, more nervous. And so I received a lot of those sentences over the years of, I heard I can't get in anywhere. I heard I have to be top of my class to go to college. I heard college is going to be unaffordable. I've heard private college is unaffordable. All things that are myths, and they're untrue in different ways for every student. And so what I really love is breaking down those myths and those things that aren't true for the kid sitting in front of me, for the student or the family sitting in front of me, to make it feel like, I can do this. I'm not going to do it for you. Hopefully family or parents are going to step back and say, you know what, you got this. But I think watching a student realize there is a path in front of me and I understand it. Maybe it's not clear necessarily. I mean, I still don't know what I'm doing necessarily for the next 10 years of my life, and that's true for kids too. But I think that at least knowing I have a plan and it's accessible to me and I know what to do next. I may not know what's 10 years from now, but I know what to do next. That's really motivating for me in making sure every student in Maine has that feeling. I loved a lot of college counseling, and it's obviously why and what led me to this work. And I think my favorite part is so much of those young adult years is constant self-discovery. You're changing at a rapid rate, and you will for the rest of your life, but it's pretty accelerated at this phase. And I think accelerated in the sense of you're trying to figure out what's next, what's going to be next after high school. And I think while you might have a good sense of who you are, who you're becoming, you don't necessarily know how to translate that into action items that come next. A student might know that they love theater, but they don't want to major in it, or that they want to help people, but they don't really know what that means. Is that nursing? Is that research? Is that, working somewhere where you can interact one-on-one with other people? And I loved teasing out those, here are things that you're excited about, and let's translate those into a list of colleges. Let's translate that into a story that you can tell colleges or scholarship applications. So for me, that translation of here's who I am or who I'm becoming, and here's how it aligns with where I want to go, and helping students articulate that, I just love that. I think first and foremost, I am most excited about getting to know scholars, both current scholars and soon-to-be scholars. We're about to enter into reading season, which I got to do when I was in admissions, and I'm just so jazzed to be able to do again for Mitchell Institute and getting to know so many prospective students. And the current scholars, I'm already reaching out and wanting to get to know folks for No Agenda Coffees. I was able to meet an awesome crew of current Mitchell scholars at Mile 2, and I'm just so excited for all of the future events and gatherings and receptions and welcomes that I get to go to start to meet everybody. It's really important to me to make that personal connection and spend some one-on-one time. And I think the other piece is getting to know our peers, other counselors at schools, other people in Maine, in the state of Maine, who are helping young people. Again, just as much as we are acting in community with Mitchell scholars, I really want to act in community with our peers. We're all looking towards the same goal of helping people access higher education, get to and through college, so let's work together. Yes, it is always, I think, equal parts joyful and embarrassing to remember what you wrote your college essay about for any adult that you talk to. It's a humanizing experience for any scholars out there to ever, reminisce on. I wrote mine about growing up on a school campus. My dad was a teacher, my mom was a staff member. We actually lived on campus until I was 15. You can imagine how bizarre and delightful that would have been. It was very, very formative for me. We raised the cats that lived on campus. We picked up our mail in the student and the teacher lounge. All these kind of quirky experiences. My teachers were my babysitters, which was very humanizing, to be honest, of being able to see them in the hallway and realize, they took care of me last night while my parents had a date night. So that was a big, big part of my upbringing, and that's what I wrote to colleges. Gosh, well, I would say because I always counsel students to put the thing you spend the most amount of time on and the thing that's most important to you very top, I would have to say chasing around my 2-year-old would probably be the first one. He requires a lot of time and energy that I am delighted, most of the time delighted to give. So that would be the first one. And everything else, I would probably put running. I became into running a few years ago, so I'm trying to stick with it. I'm a huge fan of mystery novels. I've read almost all Agatha Christie novels, so that's a big thing for me. And then I became very into the Great British Bake Off, and so I try to pretend that I'm a baker. I'm not great, but it is a good hobby, and it feeds my husband and my son, so they're thrilled with it. Think, though it's maybe the obvious answer, I'm really excited about Mile One. I think it kind of represents the type of event where I always feel like you just end up connecting with a new person or having a conversation that, wasn't planned or structured. It didn't happen necessarily in a formal workshop or, setting, but just those one-off conversations that you get to have when everyone's just comfortable with each other, gets to know each other, kind of that first day in, second day in, maybe you're sharing a meal and you connect with somebody that you hadn't met before. Those kind of connections I just love, and I think Mile One really facilitates that sort of interaction.